This bank doesn't serve your kind of people. Ma'am, leave now, or I'm calling security." The words exploded from Daniel Foster, branch manager of Unity Trust Bank, slicing through the polished elegance of the bank's flagship Atlanta lobby like a blade. Dr. Maya Johnson, the CEO of the very institution he represented, stood motionless, her hand gripping a monogrammed leather briefcase marked MJ. Her tailored black suit exuded authority, but the staff behind the counter seemed blind to it, their eyes fixed on her skin color rather than her credentials. The gleaming granite floors and crystal chandeliers of the lobby reflected a facade of sophistication, but in that moment, they framed a scene of raw prejudice. Before we dive into this gripping story of courage and transformation, I want to know, where are you watching from? Hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and share this video to spread the word about stories that matter. It was a Tuesday afternoon, 3:15 p.m., and the Atlanta sun streamed through the towering glass windows of Unity Trust Bank's main branch, casting long shadows across the bustling lobby. Dr. Maya Johnson had walked through these doors countless times. But today was different. She wasn't here for a board meeting or to review financials on the 50th floor. She was here as a customer, testing the system she led, seeking access to the bank's premium banking services. Her steps were deliberate, her posture composed, as she approached the counter where Emma Carter, a young teller, stood. Emma glanced up, her expression shifting from indifference to subtle irritation. "Excuse me, ma'am. The regular customer service desk is over there," she said, pointing to the standard teller windows across the lobby. Her tone carried a hint of dismissal, as if Maya's presence at the premium counter was a mistake. "I'm here for executive banking services," Maya replied, her voice calm but firm, betraying none of the frustration brewing inside. Emma's eyebrows arched, her skepticism palpable. "Do you have an appointment? Executive services are for our high-net-worth clients," she said, her words laced with an unspoken challenge. The lobby, filled with the soft hum of conversations and the clack of keyboards, began to quiet as other customers sensed the tension. Maya set her briefcase on the counter, the soft thud echoing in the now hushed space. The monogram MJ glinted under the chandelier light. But Emma didn't notice. Neither did Daniel Foster, who emerged from the back office, his clean-shaven face and crisp suit radiating the confidence of someone rarely questioned. "Is there a problem here?" Daniel asked, his voice carrying across the lobby, drawing more eyes. His gaze swept over Maya, dismissive and cold. "No problem," she replied evenly. "I'm requesting access to executive banking services." Daniel crossed his arms, his tone growing sharper. "Are you sure you're in the right place? This is the premium services area." He spoke louder than necessary, as if performing for the growing audience of customers and staff. A young woman named Sarah Thompson, seated at a nearby table with her laptop, began recording the exchange on her phone, her TikTok live stream. Initially meant to document her day, now captured a moment of injustice unfolding in real time. Within minutes, 1,500 viewers were watching, their comments flooding in. "Is this for real? This is straight-up discrimination." Maya's expression remained composed, but her mind was racing. She had anticipated resistance. Her position as a black woman in a predominantly white industry had prepared her for that. But the audacity of Daniel's words stung. "I don't need an appointment," she said, her voice steady. "I'm familiar with your protocols." Daniel smirked, undeterred. "Ma'am, our premium services require a minimum of $500,000 in assets, along with verified income sources, legitimate income sources," he added, his emphasis dripping with insinuation. The word legitimate hung in the air, a coded jab that landed like a punch. Sarah's live stream surged to 2,800 viewers, with comments like, "Did he just say that?" and "This is 2025, not 1970." The hashtag Unity Trust Bank began trending locally on Twitter, from her briefcase. Maya pulled her wallet, revealing a flash of a platinum American Express Centurion card before sliding her driver's license across the counter. "Here's my identification," she said. Daniel barely glanced at it. "We'll also need proof of funds, employment verification, and a detailed explanation of your business with Unity Trust Bank," he said, his tone now patronizing. A VIP parking validation ticket peeked from Maya's briefcase, access reserved exclusively for board members and C-suite executives. But Daniel's eyes skipped over it. Across the lobby, an elderly woman, Mrs. Eleanor Davis, a founding shareholder whose late husband had helped establish the bank 80 years ago, watched with growing unease. "Young man," she called out, her voice trembling with indignation, "you ought to check your records before making assumptions." Daniel ignored her, his focus locked on Maya. "You have 5 minutes to provide proper documentation, or I'm calling security," he said, his voice rising for effect. Sarah's live stream hit 4,200 viewers, and the comments grew more heated. "This is outrageous! Someone call the news!" Maya's phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it briefly, then typed a quick response. Code red, "Initiate now." Her fingers moved with precision, signaling the start of a calculated response. The time was 3:25 p.m., and the board meeting was set to begin in 35 minutes. Maya's calm exterior masked the storm brewing inside. Not just anger, but a resolve to turn this moment into something bigger. She wasn't just a customer being mistreated. She was a leader about to expose a systemic flaw. "Mr. Foster," she said quietly, her voice cutting through the tension. "You might want to review your employee handbook. Page 52, Section 4, on treating all customers with respect and dignity." Daniel's confident facade flickered for a moment. "What about it?" he snapped. But the question hung unanswered. The lobby was now a stage, with customers pausing their transactions to watch. Some shifted uncomfortably, others whispered, and a few pulled out their phones to record. Sarah's viewer count climbed to 6,500, and the hashtag Unity Trust Bank was gaining national traction. Maya stood tall, her briefcase still on the counter, its contents, board agendas, executive reports, and a CEO badge, waiting to tell a story Daniel couldn't yet comprehend. The air grew thick with anticipation. Daniel, emboldened by the attention, doubled down. "Security!" he called, waving a hand toward 2 guards stationed near the exits. The head of security, Marcus Reed, hesitated, his 20 years of experience sensing something off, but protocol demanded he follow management's lead. Mrs. Davis stood, her frail frame radiating authority. "This is not how Unity Trust Bank treats its customers," she declared, her voice carrying the weight of decades. Daniel spun toward her. "Ma'am, please don't interfere. This is a security matter." But it wasn't. It was a matter of justice, and Maya was about to prove it. As the guards approached, her phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen. "Legal team en route. ETA 5 minutes." The reckoning was coming, and the marble lobby of Unity Trust Bank was about to witness a transformation no one could have predicted. At 3:28 p.m., the branch manager's voice grew louder, his confidence swelling as he sensed the crowd's attention. "You've been given enough time, ma'am," he declared, his tone sharp and performative. "If you can't produce verifiable documentation, you're out of here." Dr. Maya Johnson, CEO of the bank, stood unwavering at the premium banking counter, her monogrammed MJ briefcase a silent testament to her authority. Her calm demeanor masked a storm of resolve, her eyes locked on Daniel as she calculated her next move. Sarah Thompson's TikTok livestream, capturing every second, skyrocketed to 7,800 viewers, with comments pouring in, "They're digging their own graves. She's clearly someone important. Check the briefcase." The hashtag Unity Trust Bank surged to 18,000 mentions, trending nationally as the lobby became a battleground of prejudice and power. Daniel's escalation drew Sophia Bennett, the regional manager, from the back office, her heels clicking sharply against the granite floor. At 45, Sophia exuded the polished assurance of someone who thrived on control. She scanned the scene. Dr. Johnson's poised stance, Daniel's flushed defiance, and the growing crowd of onlookers, and aligned herself with her subordinate without hesitation. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice clipped, already assuming fault. Daniel gestured toward Maya. "This individual is requesting executive services without proper credentials. I've outlined our protocols, but she's refusing to comply." Sophia's lips tightened, her gaze skimming past the platinum American Express Centurion card Maya had briefly revealed. "Ma'am," she said, stepping closer, "our premium services require verified assets and legitimate business purposes. If you can't provide that, you'll need to leave." The word legitimate landed like a slap, its implication clear to everyone in the room. Maya's response was measured, her voice a calm counterpoint to the rising hostility. "I'm simply trying to access services at my own bank," she said. The phrase "my own bank" carrying a weight that Daniel and Sophia failed to grasp. Sarah's live stream hit 9,500 viewers, with comments exploding, "Did she just say my own bank?" "They're about to get wrecked," across the lobby. Mrs. Eleanor Davis, an 80-year-old founding shareholder whose late husband helped build Unity Trust, stood again, her voice trembling with outrage. "This is disgraceful," she called out, her words cutting through the murmurs. "You're treating this woman like a criminal when she's done nothing wrong. Check your records." Sophia spun toward her, irritation flashing across her face. "Ma'am, this is a security matter. Please stay out of it." The lobby was now a crucible, with customers pausing their transactions to watch, some recording on their phones, amplifying Sarah's feed. The hashtag Unity Trust Bank climbed to 22,000 mentions, and local news outlets began reaching out to Sarah for her footage. Daniel, feeding off the crowd's attention, leaned into his authority. "We have strict protocols to protect against fraud," he said loudly, addressing both Maya and the onlookers. "Some people try to use our services for questionable activities." The accusation hung in the air, drawing gasps from the crowd. Maya opened her briefcase, revealing an organized array of documents, a tablet, and a VIP parking validation ticket for the executive garage, accessible only to board members and C-suite executives. She slid a business card across the counter, its text clear: Dr. Maya Johnson, Chief Executive Officer, Unity Trust Bank. Daniel scoffed, his voice dripping with disdain. "Business cards are easy to fake," he said, dismissing the card without a second glance. Sophia glanced at it, her face flickering with unease, but she quickly recovered. "We need more than a card," she said sharply. "We require proof of funds and a clear explanation of your business here." Sarah's live stream surged to 1,100 viewers, with comments like, "That's the CEO, they're done. This is going to court." Maya's phone buzzed again, and she glanced at the screen. "Legal team, 1 minute out." She typed a quick response, her fingers steady despite the chaos. 5 minutes, she said softly, echoing Daniel's earlier demand. "That will suffice." The situation spiraled further as James Carter, the district manager, appeared on a video monitor behind the counter, patched in from the regional office. His stern face loomed large. "What's the status?" he demanded. Sophia, eager to assert control, reported. "We have an uncooperative individual requesting executive services without proper documentation. We're following KYC protocols." James nodded, his expression grim. "If she can't verify her legitimate business need, proceed with removal. We can't afford to look weak on security." The two security guards, led by Marcus Reed, a 20-year veteran, moved closer to the exits. Marcus hesitated, his instincts screaming that something was wrong. But protocol demanded he follow management's orders. His hand hovered over his radio, his eyes darting to Maya's briefcase and the executive parking ticket peeking out. Maya remained a beacon of calm, her tablet now open to the Unity Trust Bank executive portal, displaying her authenticated CEO login. "Mr. Foster," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. "You mentioned protocols. Would you like to review this?" She turned the tablet toward him, the screen showing real-time bank performance metrics and her CEO credentials. Daniel, caught in his own narrative, barely glanced at it. "Security!" he shouted, his voice echoing off the granite walls. "Remove this individual now!" Marcus stepped forward, but his gaze locked onto Maya's, and he froze. The monogrammed briefcase, the platinum card, the executive parking ticket. It all clicked. He keyed his radio, his voice low. "Read here. Hold position. Something's off." Sarah's live stream hit 13,500 viewers, with comments erupting. "She's the CEO. This is insane. Record everything. This is evidence." Mrs. Davis approached Maya again, her eyes blazing. "My dear, this is an outrage," she said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "My husband built this bank on fairness. This is a betrayal of everything we stand for." Maya offered a small, grateful nod. "Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Your support means everything." At 3:34 p.m., the glass doors of Unity Trust Bank's Atlanta flagship branch swung open, and three figures in tailored dark suits entered with the precision of a well-rehearsed strike team. Leading the group was Olivia Grant, the chief of staff, her sharp gaze cutting through the charged atmosphere. Flanking her were David Harper, general counsel, clutching a tablet loaded with legal documents, and Rachel Cohen, compliance director, whose calm demeanor belied the storm of regulatory implications she was already calculating. The lobby, already electric with tension, fell into a stunned silence as the trio approached the premium banking counter, where Dr. Maya Johnson stood, her composure unshaken despite the escalating hostility from branch manager Daniel Foster and regional manager Sophia Bennett. Sarah Thompson's TikTok livestream, now at 18,200 viewers, captured every second, with comments exploding, "The cavalry's here! This is about to get real!" Olivia's voice sliced through the silence, addressing Maya directly. "Dr. Johnson, I apologize for the delay. The board meeting has been rescheduled to the executive conference room at 4 p.m. The use of Maya's title and name landed like a thunderclap. Daniel's face froze, his earlier bravado evaporating as the reality began to dawn. Sophia's confident posture faltered, her eyes darting to the business card on the counter. "Dr. Maya Johnson, Chief Executive Officer, Unity Trust Bank," which she had dismissed as a fake. Marcus Reed, the head of security, stepped back, his hand dropping from his radio as he exchanged a glance with his team, signaling them to stand down. The crowd of customers, some still recording, murmured in disbelief, while Mrs. Eleanor Davis, the 80-year-old founding shareholder, nodded approvingly. Her earlier warnings vindicated. Daniel stammered, his voice barely audible. "Dr. Johnson? That's impossible." Maya's response was calm but piercing. "Is it?" She turned her tablet toward him, the screen displaying her authenticated CEO dashboard, real-time financial metrics, board meeting schedules, and compliance reports, all stamped with her verified credentials. The lobby's crystal chandeliers cast a soft glow on the screen, amplifying its undeniable truth. Sophia's face drained of color, her 15 years with Unity Trust flashing before her eyes as she realized the gravity of their mistake. Sarah's live stream hit 21,000 viewers, with comments like, "They just humiliated their own CEO. This is going viral for all the wrong reasons." The hashtag Unity Trust Bank, now had 28,000 mentions, and local news vans were pulling up outside. Alerted by the social media firestorm, Olivia Grant took charge, her voice commanding but professional. "Mr. Foster, Ms. Bennett, you will accompany us to the executive floor for the board meeting. This matter requires immediate attention." Daniel opened his mouth to protest, then closed it, his career unraveling in real time. Sophia, her hands trembling slightly, tried to salvage the situation. "There's been a misunderstanding," she began, her voice cracking. "We were following protocol." Olivia cut her off, her tone icy. "Your protocols will be discussed in detail. Ms. Bennett, let's move." The crowd parted as the legal team escorted Maya, Daniel, and Sophia toward the executive elevators. The soft hum of the marble lobby now drowned out by whispers and the buzz of phones capturing the scene. Mrs. Davis approached Maya as they moved toward the elevators, her eyes brimming with emotion. "My dear, I've banked here for 40 years, and I've never been so ashamed of this institution," she said, loud enough for others to hear. "But watching you handle this with such grace, I'm proud to call you our leader." Maya offered a warm smile, her voice steady. "Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Your support means the world." Sarah, still live streaming, approached cautiously, her phone lowered but still recording. "Dr. Johnson, I just want to say, what's happening here is wrong, but you're inspiring so many people right now." Maya nodded, her eyes meeting Sarah's. "Thank you for bearing witness. Sometimes, that's the most powerful thing we can do." The executive elevator doors closed at 3:40 p.m., whisking Maya, Daniel, Sophia, and the legal team to the 50th floor. The lobby, though quieter, remained abuzz with customers discussing the scene. Sarah's live stream peaked at 25,000 viewers, and the footage was being shared across Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, with 35,000 mentions of Unity Trust Bank. 3 national news outlets had now contacted Sarah, requesting permission to use her video. The bank's social media team, monitoring the crisis from the corporate office, reported a spike in mentions, 45,000 in the last 15 minutes, and a flood of messages demanding accountability. The marble lobby, once a symbol of Unity Trust's prestige, had become a flashpoint for a public relations nightmare. On the 50th floor, the executive conference room was already filling with board members, their faces grim as they prepared for an emergency session. Chairman Edward Marshall, a 70-year-old veteran of the banking industry, stood at the head of the polished mahogany table, his expression heavy with the weight of the unfolding scandal. The board's 12 members, including Risk Management Chair Thomas Reed and Audit Committee Chair Laura Mitchell, reviewed preliminary reports from the legal team. David Harper, the General Counsel, prepared to present a legal analysis, while Rachel Cohen, the Compliance Director, compiled data on the bank's recent discrimination complaints. The elevator ride for Daniel and Sophia was silent, their earlier confidence replaced by dread as they faced the consequences of their actions. Maya, standing tall in the elevator, reviewed her tablet, her mind already shifting to the broader implications. This wasn't just about her personal humiliation. It was about exposing a systemic flaw in the bank's culture. Her leadership had been tested, not by market fluctuations or regulatory audits, but by the very people entrusted to uphold Unity Trust's values. As the elevator doors opened, she stepped into the conference room, her presence commanding immediate respect. Daniel and Sophia followed, their faces pale, knowing they were walking into a reckoning. Sarah's live stream, now being screen-recorded by thousands, continued to spread, with comments like, "This is why we need leaders like her." Unity Trust is about to change forever. At 4 p.m., the executive conference room on the 50th floor of Unity Trust Bank's Atlanta Tower buzzed with the controlled chaos of a corporate crisis. The polished mahogany table reflected the stern faces of the 12 board members, led by Chairman Edward Marshall, a 70-year-old banking veteran whose 35-year tenure had never seen a scandal of this magnitude. Dr. Maya Johnson stood at the head of the room, her tailored suit and monogrammed briefcase a stark contrast to the shell-shocked expressions of branch manager Daniel Foster and regional manager Sophia Bennett, who sat rigidly, their careers hanging by a thread. The legal team, Chief of Staff Olivia Grant, General Counsel David Harper, and Compliance Director Rachel Cohen, flanked Maya, their tablets glowing with data that painted a damning picture. Sarah Thompson's TikTok live stream, now archived but screen-recorded by thousands, had peaked at 25,000 viewers, with 5,000 Twitter mentions of #UnityTrustBank and 2,000 Facebook shares. The crisis was no longer contained. It was a global spectacle. Edward Marshall called the emergency session to order, his voice grave. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to address an unprecedented incident in our flagship branch that threatens the very foundation of Unity Trust Bank. Dr. Johnson will brief us. Maya activated the room's presentation system, the massive screen flashing with real-time analytics, 30 YouTube uploads of the lobby footage, 6,000 Twitter mentions, and a 300% spike in negative social media sentiment. What began as a customer service interaction has become a public relations catastrophe, she began, her voice steady but laced with urgency. At 3:15 p.m., I was denied service, questioned about my legitimate income, and threatened with removal from our own bank, based solely on assumptions about my appearance. The board shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting to Daniel and Sophia, who avoided their gazes. David Harper, the general counsel, stepped forward, his tablet displaying a legal breakdown. The incident violates multiple federal statutes, the Fair Housing Act of 1968, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974, and the Community Reinvestment Act of 1977, he said. Potential FDIC fines range from $75,000 to $75,000 per violation. Civil lawsuits could seek damages exceeding $25 million, with class action exposure potentially reaching $75 million. Existing discrimination lawsuits against Unity Trust, totaling $3.5 million in claimed damages, will likely escalate. He paused, letting the numbers sink in. The stock market opens tomorrow, and analysts project a 10–15% decline in share price at open. Board member Thomas Reed, chair of the Risk Management Committee, leaned forward, his face pale. How did this happen in our flagship branch? Maya switched the screen to security footage from the lobby, time-stamped 3:15 p.m. The board watched in silence as Daniel's aggressive demeanor unfolded, his voice booming, "This bank doesn't serve your kind of people." Sophia's supportive nods and James Carter's video call instruction to proceed with removal played out like a slow-motion train wreck. When the footage ended, the room was still, save for the soft hum of the air conditioning. Board member Laura Mitchell, chair of the audit committee, turned to Daniel, her voice sharp. "Mr. Foster, explain your actions. What made Dr. Johnson's presence suspicious?" Daniel stood shakily, his earlier bravado gone. I thought I was following protocol. We're trained to verify customers to prevent fraud," Laura pressed. "What about Dr. Johnson's appearance suggested fraud?" Daniel's voice trailed off, his silence damning. She didn't look like..." He stopped, realizing the trap he'd walked into. Sophia tried to intervene, her voice trembling. "We deal with fraud attempts regularly. We have to be vigilant." David Harper cut her off, his tone merciless. "Ms. Bennett, in your 15 years with Unity Trust, how many fraud attempts involved someone claiming to be a bank executive?" Sophia hesitated. "None," Harper continued. "How many times have you demanded white customers prove their income was legitimate before providing standard services?" Her silence was deafening. Rachel Cohen presented statistical data, her voice clinical. Customer service patterns at our flagship branch. Average service time for white customers, 4.5 minutes. For black customers, 13.2 minutes. Additional documentation requests, 52% for black customers, 5% for white customers. Security calls for suspicious activity, 72 incidents in 12 months, 68 involving non-white customers. The numbers landed like blows, exposing a culture of systemic bias. Board member William Hayes, a former federal prosecutor, leaned back, his expression grim. This isn't just about today. This is about an institutional failure, Maya nodded, advancing to a slide outlining 3 options. Option 1, minimize and contain, discipline Daniel and Sophia internally, settle lawsuits privately, and hope the media storm fades. This protects short-term stock price, but invites long-term regulatory scrutiny. She paused, her eyes scanning the room. The FDIC is already reviewing our Community Reinvestment Act compliance. Minimizing this will confirm their concerns. Option 2, partial reform. Terminate Daniel and Sophia, implement basic sensitivity training, and issue a public apology. This satisfies immediate pressure, but leaves systemic issues intact. Option 3, complete transformation. Overhaul policies. Mandate industry-leading bias training. Establish a community investment fund. And enforce executive accountability. This is costly and disruptive, but ensures long-term stability. CFO Charles Newman projected financial implications. Option 3's initial costs, $3.2 million over 7 months for training and compliance. Community Investment Fund, $1 million initial commitment. Ongoing costs, $1.2 million annually. Compare that to potential lawsuit damages of $75 million or more. Maya advanced to a slide showing precedent. Wells Fargo's $185 million discrimination settlement in 2012, Bank of America's $350 million lending bias penalty in 2011. We can pay for reform now or lawsuits later, she said. Board member Susan Parker asked. What's the regulatory exposure? David Harper replied. Significant. The FDIC could impose operational restrictions or revoke our charter in extreme cases. Edward Marshall turned to James Carter, still on the video monitor from the regional office. Mr. Carter, you instructed removal despite live video evidence. Explain. James shifted uncomfortably. I relied on my manager's assessment. I didn't have full context, Maya interjected, her voice firm. You had a live feed. Mr. Carter, you saw exactly what was happening and chose to escalate. The room fell silent, the weight of her accusation undeniable. HR Director Margaret Brooks presented termination recommendations. Immediate dismissal of Daniel Foster for discriminatory conduct, Sophia Bennett for supporting discrimination, and James Carter for escalating bias. Marcus Reed, Security Chief, receives a warning and remedial training for delayed recognition. Thomas Reed posed the critical question. Dr. Johnson, what's your recommendation? Maya stood taller, her voice resonant. Option 3, complete transformation. We're not just deciding Unity Trust's future. We're defining what equitable banking means for the next century. We lead the industry in fairness, or we accept bias as part of our DNA. The board exchanged glances, some calculating, others ashamed. Edward Marshall called for a vote. Hands rose unanimously, 12-0 for transformation. At 5:15 p.m., Daniel, Sophia, and James were terminated, their exits marking the end of an era. Maya's gaze swept the room, her resolve unshaken. This is just the beginning, she said. We rebuild trust starting now. The boardroom, once a place of routine, had become the crucible for Unity Trust's rebirth, and Dr. Johnson was its architect. By 8 a.m. the next morning, Unity Trust Bank's flagship branch in Atlanta buzzed with purposeful activity, a stark contrast to the chaos of the previous day. Dr. Maya Johnson stood in the marble lobby where she had been humiliated, now overseeing the rollout of sweeping reforms. The air was charged with a sense of urgency and hope, as employees, customers, and media gathered to witness the bank's response. A diverse team of compliance officers, wearing badges identifying them as customer service advocates, was stationed throughout the lobby, observing interactions to ensure equitable treatment. Their presence sent a clear message. Unity Trust was serious about change. Sarah Thompson, whose TikTok livestream had ignited the crisis with 25,000 peak viewers, returned as an invited guest, now interviewed by Channel 5 News. "What Dr. Johnson is doing here isn't just damage control," she told reporters. "It's a revolution in how banks treat people." The hashtag Unity Trust Bank, with 75,000 Twitter mentions overnight, had shifted from outrage to cautious optimism. The first reform was immediate and visible, the launch of the Unity Equity app at midnight. This anonymous reporting tool allowed customers and employees to flag discriminatory treatment in real time. With reports funneling directly to Dr. Johnson's office and the legal department, Compliance Director Rachel Cohen demonstrated its features to journalists, showing how a customer could submit a concern and receive a response within hours. "Transparency is our foundation now," she said. By 9:00 a.m., the app had processed 1,200 interactions. With a 95% positive resolution rate, HR Director Margaret Brooks addressed the assembled staff, her voice firm. "Every employee will complete 40 hours of bias awareness training within 30 days. This isn't punishment, it's growth." The training, designed by leading diversity experts, went beyond compliance, challenging employees to confront unconscious biases and reframe their approach to service. The Community Investment Fund, initially set at $1 million, grew to $2.5 million by noon, thanks to personal contributions from board members, including Chairman Edward Marshall, who pledged $2,000 from his own funds. The fund targeted minority-owned businesses and financial literacy programs in underserved communities, signaling Unity Trust's commitment to systemic change. Dr. Johnson announced the fund's expansion at a press conference, flanked by Mrs. Eleanor Davis, the 80-year-old founding shareholder whose passionate defense had resonated with the public. "This bank was built to serve everyone," Mrs. Davis said, her voice steady. Dr. Johnson is honoring that legacy. The press conference, streamed live on Unity Trust's website, drew 5,000 viewers, with comments praising the bank's swift action. This is what leadership looks like. Finally, a bank putting people first. Data from the morning showed immediate impact. Rachel Cohen presented updated metrics. Average customer service time equalized at 4.7 minutes across all demographics, down from 13.2 minutes for Black customers the previous day. Requests for additional documentation plummeted 70%, and customer satisfaction scores soared 95% compared to the prior week. Employee confidence, bolstered by emergency training sessions, rose 50%. These numbers, projected on screens throughout the lobby, were a testament to the power of decisive action. The media, initially skeptical, began shifting their narrative. A CNN headline read, "Unity Trust Bank turns crisis into catalyst for change." The stock market, which had braced for a 10–15% drop, saw only a 4% dip at open, with shares recovering 2% by midday as investors recognized the bank's proactive response. Dr. Johnson personally met with Emma Carter, the young teller who had initially misdirected her to the standard service desk. Emma, tears in her eyes, apologized profusely. "Dr. Johnson, I should have known who you were. I'm so sorry." Maya's response was gentle but firm. "Emma, you didn't discriminate. You followed a flawed process. Our job now is to fix that process." Emma, empowered by the new training, emerged as a top-rated customer service representative within weeks, her empathy channeled into excellence. Security Chief Marcus Reed, who had hesitated during the crisis, implemented new protocols emphasizing de-escalation and cultural sensitivity. His 20 years of experience, combined with enhanced training, made him a model for security professionals, featured in Banking Security Journal for his innovative approach. The bank's legal exposure, initially estimated at $75 million, was mitigated by swift action. General Counsel David Harper negotiated settlements for 3 pending discrimination lawsuits, totaling $4 million, with plaintiffs praising Unity Trust's reforms. This isn't just about money. One plaintiff's attorney told reporters, "It's about accountability." The FDIC, conducting a Community Reinvestment Act review, issued a preliminary commendation for Unity Trust's rapid response, upgrading its rating from needs improvement to satisfactory within 45 days. The bank's crisis management team, activated at Maya's direction, worked around the clock, coordinating media responses and monitoring social media. Where mentions of Unity Trust Bank reached 100,000 by evening, Dr. Johnson established monthly community forums, inviting customers to share their experiences directly with executives. The first session, held a week later, drew 300 attendees, including many who had witnessed the lobby incident. "Change doesn't happen in boardrooms alone," Maya told the crowd. "It happens when we listen and act." The forums became a cornerstone of Unity Trust's new culture, fostering trust and transparency. Sarah Thompson, now transitioning to a career in social justice journalism with 95,000 TikTok followers, moderated the second forum, amplifying community voices. Her interviews with Maya, shared widely, consistently ended with the same question: "What do you tell someone facing discrimination?" Maya's answer: "Document everything, speak your truth, and never let silence win." Former branch manager Daniel Foster received an unexpected call from Olivia Grant. Unity Trust offered him enrollment in a 7-month diversity education program, fully funded, with job placement upon completion. "This isn't about punishment," Maya told him in a private meeting. "It's about growth. You can let this define you or learn from it." Daniel accepted, volunteering at community financial literacy workshops, where he began confronting his biases. Sophia Bennett declined a similar offer, opting for a standard termination package. James Carter's regional role was eliminated, his actions during the crisis becoming a case study in leadership failure at banking conferences. The transformation extended beyond the flagship branch. Unity Trust rolled out its reforms across all 150 branches, with compliance officers monitoring service times and customer interactions. The Unity Equity app was licensed to 15 other banks, creating industry-wide accountability. Quarterly bias audits, conducted by independent firms, became standard, with results published transparently. Executive bonuses were tied to diversity metrics, ensuring accountability at the highest levels. A community advisory board, with rotating membership, was established to guide the bank's outreach efforts. By week's end, Unity Trust's stock had fully recovered, gaining 3% as investors bet on its long-term stability. Mrs. Davis, now an unofficial community ambassador, attended every forum, sharing stories of the bank's transformation. "In my 80 years," she told attendees, "I've seen change come slowly, but Dr. Johnson made it happen overnight." The lobby, once a stage for injustice, became a symbol of renewal. Customers of all backgrounds entered, receiving respectful service regardless of appearance or accent. Unity Trust's reforms were featured in a Harvard Business Review case study. With Maya invited to speak at banking conferences nationwide, her message was clear. Leadership isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about fixing them with courage. The bank's transformation was just beginning, but its impact was already reshaping the industry, proving that one leader's resolve could turn a crisis into a legacy of justice. 7 months after the crisis, Dr. Maya Johnson stood before 4,500 banking executives at the American Bankers Association's annual conference in Miami, delivering a keynote titled "From Crisis to Culture: Redefining Banking Through Equity." The ballroom buzzed with anticipation as she recounted the events of that pivotal Tuesday afternoon, when she was denied service and threatened with removal from her own bank. Her presentation was not just a narrative, but a blueprint, detailing how Unity Trust turned a moment of shame into a model for industry-wide reform. The statistics she shared were staggering. Customer satisfaction had surged 140% across all demographics. New account openings in underserved communities had risen 110%, and employee retention had improved 85% following the cultural overhaul. The Community Investment Fund, now at $4.2 million, had funded 150 minority-owned businesses and 20 financial literacy programs. Transforming lives in Atlanta and beyond, the Unity Equity app, launched in the wake of the crisis, had become a game-changer. With 15,000 interactions processed and a 98% positive resolution rate, it empowered customers and employees to report bias instantly, ensuring accountability. 10 major banks had licensed the app, and federal regulators were exploring its adoption as an industry standard. Quarterly bias audits, conducted by independent firms, revealed a 75% reduction in documentation requests across all customer groups, with service times now averaging 4.6 minutes regardless of race or background. Unity Trust's executive compensation structure, now tied to diversity and inclusion metrics, had been adopted by 12 other financial institutions, signaling a shift in how success was measured. Maya's slide deck, projected on the conference's massive screens, included a quote from Mrs. Eleanor Davis, the 80-year-old shareholder. "Dr. Johnson didn't just fix a bank, she rebuilt its soul." Sarah Thompson, whose TikTok live stream had catalyzed the crisis, had parlayed her accidental activism into a career in social justice journalism. With 1.2 million followers, she continued to highlight stories of discrimination and transformation, often featuring Dr. Johnson in interviews. Her signature question remained, "What do you tell someone facing injustice?" Maya's answer, now a mantra for activists, was, "Document your truth, speak with courage, and know that your voice can change systems." Sarah's coverage of Unity Trust's reforms, shared across platforms, had garnered 2,000 shares, keeping the bank's story in the public eye. Her work inspired a new generation of journalists to use social media as a tool for accountability, proving that one person's lens could spark a movement. Mrs. Davis, now 81, had become Unity Trust's unofficial community ambassador, attending every monthly forum and sharing the bank's journey with neighbors and friends. "I've seen a lot in my lifetime," she told a packed forum of 350 attendees. "But watching one woman's courage transform an institution is something extraordinary." Her presence at these events, often seated beside Maya, lent historical weight to the reforms, reminding everyone of the bank's founding principles. The forums themselves had become a cornerstone of Unity Trust's culture, drawing 500 participants by the 7th month, with customers sharing stories of fair treatment and renewed trust. One attendee, a small business owner, recounted opening an account without the scrutiny he'd faced at other banks, crediting Unity Trust's new policies for his success. The bank's flagship branch had become a destination for industry professionals studying equitable service delivery. Twice-weekly tours, led by Emma Carter, now promoted to customer experience specialist, showcased the branch's transformed operations. Emma's natural empathy, honed through rigorous training, made her a standout, with customer satisfaction ratings in her section topping 97%. Security Chief Marcus Reed, featured in Security Management magazine, shared his revamped protocols, emphasizing de-escalation and cultural sensitivity. His approach was adopted by 20 Fortune 500 companies, cementing his reputation as a leader in corporate security. The branch's lobby, once a flashpoint, now displayed plaques honoring its commitment to equity, with a digital screen showing real-time service metrics to reinforce transparency. Unity Trust's influence extended far beyond its walls. Federal banking regulators adopted its bias audit standards, mandating quarterly reviews for all major banks. 25 institutions implemented similar equity apps, and the American Bankers Association introduced mandatory diversity training requirements, inspired by Unity Trust's model. The community investment fund model spread, with $60 million in new funds launched across participating banks. Dr. Johnson's appointment to the Federal Reserve's Community Advisory Council amplified her impact, shaping national policy on equitable financial services. Her testimony before Congress, advocating for stricter anti-discrimination regulations, was cited in proposed amendments to the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, signaling a seismic shift in the industry. The 3 discrimination lawsuits against Unity Trust, settled for $4 million, became case studies in accountability. Plaintiffs' attorneys praised the bank's reforms, with one stating, "Unity Trust didn't just pay, it changed." The FDIC's commendation, upgrading the bank's Community Reinvestment Act rating to outstanding, reflected its rapid progress. Stock performance, initially projected to plummet, stabilized, gaining 4.5% over 7 months as investors rewarded the bank's resilience. Former branch manager Daniel Foster, enrolled in Unity Trust's diversity education program, completed his training and joined a community development nonprofit, where he led financial literacy workshops. "I learned that good intentions don't excuse harm," he said in a video testimonial. "Dr. Johnson showed me what real leadership means." The quieter, more personal changes were perhaps the most profound. Everyday customers entered Unity Trust's branches, from Atlanta to Seattle, and received service free of judgment. A single mother opening her first savings account, a young entrepreneur securing a business loan, an elderly couple managing their retirement funds. All were treated with the same dignity. These interactions, unremarkable on their own, wove a tapestry of trust that redefined the bank's legacy. Dr. Johnson's story, now a Harvard Business School case study, was taught to future leaders, emphasizing that crises, when met with courage, can birth transformation. At the Miami conference, Maya closed her keynote with a challenge. Leadership isn't about perfection, it's about accountability. When your values are tested, will you rise or hide? The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes, with 4,500 executives on their feet, inspired to act. Unity Trust's journey proved that one person's resolve could ripple outward, changing not just an institution but an industry. Dr. Johnson's legacy was not just in the numbers: 140% customer satisfaction, 110% account growth, $4.2 million in community investment, but in the lives touched by her vision, as she walked through the Atlanta lobby 7 months later, greeting customers and staff. The marble floors reflected a new era. Unity Trust Bank had become a symbol of what was possible when justice and leadership converged, proving that even the darkest moments could spark a brighter future.